sorry I'm not able to travel there, but it's great to be able to take part online. Very interesting presentations so far. So I'm going to talk about my research which is ongoing. I have some preliminary findings. It's a study on Finnish university students' worldviews and perspectives on teaching about the interconnectedness of all life. So the structure of the presentation is the following. I'm just saying a few words about the study and the ALTED project, and I have a few starting points and research questions, theory, methodology, and the preliminary findings and discussion. The aim of the study is to study future educators' relations to nature and how they envision possible ways by which education can advance ecocentric worldviews through education. It's part of the ALTED project, Adult Learning and Transformative Sustainability Education, which explores adult learning and transformative sustainability education. So, and it aims to contribute to how transformative sustainability expertise and agency can be supported among higher education students within the educational science. And it includes students in early childhood education, in class teacher education, as well as general and adult education. I have a few starting points here, and in fact, they coincide with the general starting points of this conference and have been talked about a great deal already, but I just want to state them as a background. The first one is that achieving a sustainability requires transformative worldview change, something that now is from researcher point of view evident also among climate researchers. And this involves both a transformative change that also includes the value and worldview dimension. But the question is, what is this kind of a transformation really, and what does it entail in education at the moment? In line with Messiro's theory about transformative learning, it's a fundamental change or shift in perspective that results in long-lasting changes in people's sense of self, perception of relationship to the world around them, and way of being. And it's both about how you see the world and how you live your life. And the second starting point is to advance sustainability. There is need to rethink human nature relationships in large parts of the world among many populations and people. And this is also something that has been talked about here on the conference, but just generally has risen stronger along the way, also in educational field. And here is one figure what this worldview transformation entails, going from a detrimental vision to a sustainable vision by Barag and Jason and colleagues. Here you also see the change, which is given a question mark of openness from a detrimental vision to a vision where contact with nature, sustainable behaviors and policies, and sustainable norms and values integrate into a non-anthropocentric, interdependent view of human nature connectedness. So I think in the research I have done until now within within education, the role of education has during the previous years now come up as more and more central to achieve this change. And first of all, the interconnectedness of human nature relationships is one real focus area for education, and connecting it to agency as well. But for the role of education, one major concern is the need for pressing change and fast change to reach the goals we have and the crisis we are in. So we can, as Ilona Otto and colleagues talk about social tipping points, worldview change and education belongs to the very slow changes that maybe take at least 10 or 30 years to change, which is a concerning point of view when you think about managing creating change in a crisis. So the questions that I ask just in general is what is needed right now in education? How can sustainability education succeed? And what does this, do we need the kind of transformative learning that, for instance, Mesiro talks about? And in this context, how about learners today in a higher education, in educational field, do they have a readiness for transformative learning, and how can they develop competence to teach in a transformative way? But this sub-study in question now has two more concrete research questions, and that is, how do students within educational science view their own relations to nature? And how do students possibly envision ways by which education can advance ecocentric worldviews and teach about the interconnected of the whole life? So it actually, this study also, kind of goes into this part of readiness for transformative learning and teaching. And from a theoretical background, I have been together with my colleagues doing studies on worldview transformative worldviews in Finnish educational context and worldview transformative aspects. When you think about nature relationships among Finns and Finnish youth in general, youth have very diverse and also changing ways of seeing nature and relating to nature. Many see nature as having a strong value, but also a quite strong resource perspective on nature, as well as tensions. When you look at Finnish education, the present curriculum in the school emphasizes also non-human nature as a vital part, and there is a quote here that humans are part of nature and are totally dependent on viable ecosystems. Which is a clear relating to an interconnectedness. So these are some of the starting points from a Finnish perspective. And in the Finnish population has a strong Lutheran background, and which is also seen in worldview education in Finland. Also, the secular ethics subject, which we have in a pluralistic framework, is also strong. But we have a pluralistic framework in worldview education with different subjects of religion and worldviews. Also, from a theoretical background, we have done a study which investigated how human-nature relationships in Finnish education emerge, and how they emerge in specifically worldview education. Here you can see how we could see in focusing on textbooks in Lutheran and Orthodox religious education, that this dominance of a view of humans as masters of nature and also separate of non-human nature is strong. Something that from a sustainability education perspective is something that is the critical point in general in education in Western schools. And then, as I said, I have an interest here to look at the material from a transformative learning perspective. And here I have listed some of the starting points here for the theoretical background. I want to mention this last point that I have to look at transformative learning in a sustainability education perspective. It is important to take into consideration that sustainability education is also directed on a political project, whereas transformative learning from a measurable perspective is often thought about in a very open way that has no clear direction and goals. So it's a qualitative study, and my aim from this research is both the theoretical but also to practically develop education at the University of Helsinki. And this study is based on course assignment in an introductory sustainability education course at the faculty, and it's for first year's bachelor students. So it's their first year of study, and in that sense investigates their initial understandings. And I have material from this spring, but I will still collect more material next spring. And it focuses on two assignments, written assignments, which are based on a lecture, but also on a video by an evolutionary biologist, Aura Raula, who talks about human-nature relationships. And the participants now are 31 in this preliminary part of the study, which is really mostly based on my first readings of the material. So it's not going deep, but I want to reflect on a few things in the material which I find interesting in a general sense. And the first thing is that the students quite dominantly they had this quite intuitive understanding of interconnectedness, in the way that many of the students wrote that we are part of nature, everything in the universe is connected, nothing is isolated, we are all in one way or another bound together through nature. And one student wrote, I have previously also thought about how we are all part of a large ecosystem, but I haven't considered how invisibly we are all connected as well. I think it's important to remember that we are indeed a part of this world and that we absolutely should not isolate ourselves. We all need each other and we need nature to feel well. Many of the students expressed through the video they had been seeing a widened understanding from previously. A few expressed that they had different kinds of thinking, but many said it was new, it was interesting, and it was exciting, and it contrasted to common and traditional perceptions in society, and in many cases also to students' previous school education. What was quite strong in that material is a very positive connotations to nature as a term. Here is a longer citation I would wish to read for you. Firstly, the text makes me reflect on my own perception of identity and how it has changed over time. Previously, I saw myself as an isolated individual with unique traits and experiences. Now I realize that I am part of a larger network of life and that my identity is shaped by my relationships and interactions with the world around me. This text also makes me question the significance of Western individualism and its impact on our view of the human-nature relationship. During my schooling, I learned to value interdependence and autonomy, but the text reminds me that this should not lead to detachment and isolation from our surroundings. My education has given me a basic understanding of human-nature relationships, but the text expands and deepens my perspective on this subject. It raises questions about responsibility and sustainability and makes me ponder on how I can contribute to a more balanced and reciprocal relationship with nature in the future. So this student actually talks about the text because the video was also in text version. Also, the second part of the research was questions on how students, what kind of ideas they had for how they could advance ecocentric views in educational practice. And I won't go into this more in detail. It's not analyzed in detail at this moment. But what I want to tell you is that the general observation from students writing is that they have a lot of ideas. I mean, they're first year students, but it's quite easy for them to reflect on different ways to support ecocentric views. Outside pedagogics was one thing that many of them talked about, but other didactical suggestions, also curriculum development, and also some examples of whole school and organizational initiatives. So in this sense, there were a wide array of possible ways forward. And a few students quite strongly expressed that they want to inspire my students to be mindful of nature, to take care of it, and to appreciate. I want to give everyone the opportunity to experience the feeling of being in nature. So the general sense from students writing is this: that they're quite open to engaging in this area as future educators. I think I haven't got time to read the second one. I also have a last citation on the next page, a more detailed one. A student who gave an example of how one could work with going into the forest, picking blueberries, tasting them, and talking about them and how they grow and what they mean to us, and how we can stay healthier through them, and in this sense support a more ecocentric understanding. So there were many more, but I will go further into them later. But just for a discussion, I think that there were signs from this material. There's openness for interconnected worldviews. It's not like a strange idea for students, at least at this level. But there was clear from the first reading that there is a need for stronger scientific knowledge and understanding about sustainability, and also, which I will emphasize in the next final slide, is need for this curricular priority to have time and resources to develop teaching practices, and the ideas that they have already in these first year students reflections, you could see that they problematized the possibilities to have resources and time to do this, and also talked about the traditional ways that society looks at human nature relationships, which can be problematic. But I have this quote by Sean et al. Says that, in short, though individual motivation is important, the problem is sometimes or often not that individuals lack motivation for action, again on climate change, but rather that current infrastructure, habits and norms are outdated and insufficient to express values already present. And this is kind of the point that I'm trying to now work on, which comes back to the view we have about transformative worldview change and transformative learning. Because quite a lot of the discourse we have about transformative worldview change at the moment, also in education, is a lot about this paradigmatic shift into the unknown, a kind of leap, a rupture, a kind of revolution, a very riskful endeavor. And I think there is also need to look at transformative learning through a sense of transitioning, about aligning and recentering and rethinking also previous ways of thinking and behaving. And this includes this kind of approach includes this. I have 4 points here: just widening previous focus and strengthening existing and latent understanding. And this includes also reinterpretation of religions and worldviews, which we have talked about in a previous publication. Kind of listening and unleashing and searching for commonalities and global perspectives in previous more local and individual views. And also this, as I said, linking transformative learning to scientific knowledge and sustainability goals, and creating this institutional and structural support and give space and time and resources. This is what teachers need in the future. They need the time to actually do things that many of them want to do. And then this 4th one is also something that you can see in the material, that students want tools and ways to really create new practices, and in this sense to align already existing values to practices and new ways of behaving and lifestyle. And this action is also a way to change values parallel. We don't need to go from values to behavior, but also the other way around. So thank you very much for your attention.